Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Nick DeChembry. This is our 200th episode of the Talk and Power podcast. Can everyone hear me to start with? Eddie, you can hear me? All good? Well, that's all right. That's a good start. So we'll get stuck into it. We're going to do a quick chat about this year, and then we have with us tonight top Doorslammer superstar, rising star, Brodie Zappia over there. So we're going to have him on shortly in about 15 minutes. His whole crew has come tonight as well. So big congratulations. Can't wait to have him on. All right, so we're going to kick things off right now.
Talk and Power, your motorsport and motoring radio show. Now on 88.5 FM, The Valley Comes Alive. And podcasting across iTunes and talkandpower.com.au.
When did we get an intro song? When did that happen?
Simon, we have always had, shows you how much you listen to the episodes. We have an intro song every single episode. That was it. Your microphone on there?
Nope. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
there you are.
Hello. Okay.
I'd like to introduce our co-hosts, Simon Gonzo Travellini over there and Michelle Morrison over there.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you very much. Big round of applause. Also, I'd like to thank Johnny Alardi. He's a co-host over there as well. And Todd Brinkworth over there. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. We're going to hear from them a bit later as well. Welcome, everyone. As we said, this is our 200th episode. A big thanks to the Odin Tavern tonight as well. The Odin have put on this gig for us. So big thanks to Greg Walker. His father, Bill, is walking around as well. For those that follow their waffle, will know Bill Walker. He was a very famous waffle player. So for your footy fans, they are also, you'll see Bill floating around. And big thanks to Greg and the whole staff here as well. So Alana, Leanne, Tanya, big thanks to them, all the dedicated workers here, keeping the Odin Tavern alive in the Hoon capital of the world, which is what we've always said.
Hey, Nick, did we ever verify that?
No, it's never been properly verified. No, I can't say it has. Anyway, 200 episodes. Can't have done this without Simon Travellini here and Todd Brinkworth, Johnny Alardi, and our latest unpaid employee, Michelle Morrison here. Can't have done it without her. So big thanks to you guys. Simon, I fondly remember our first episode.
What do you fondly remember about?
I am going to play a clip from our first episode. Have a listen for those that have never heard our first episode. Just tune into this.
G'day everyone out there in the World Wide Web. Welcome to our new automotive podcast called Talk and Power. If it's got wheels, we have something to say about it. With me is our co-host Simon Gonzo Travellini, and I'm Nick DeChembry. How are you, Simon?
Good, mate. Pleasure to be on the show.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for inviting me, mate.
No problems at all. You're the influential person in the Perth drag racing scene. Why wouldn't we have you here?
I think the only influence I have is a bad influence.
I didn't want to say that. You know me. I'm trying to be diplomatic at the very least.
Diplomatic, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Whatever the opposite of diplomatic is, that's what I would be.
That is true. No one's disputing that.
Speaking of diplomacy, state election,
Yeah.
Mark McGowan, how long do you reckon he's going to be in for?
Well, I know you have an opinion on this. I personally think he'll go the full term.
You reckon?
Yeah, but I know your thoughts.
I don't know. I know, you know, I'm a bit sus about the whole thing, to be honest. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He's Vic Park there. Think of it now.
Ben White.
Ben White, that's it. Ben White.
He's our
See,
treasurer.
Is he?
Yeah, he's a treasurer.
Oh, maybe that's the go. He started off as treasurer, become premier.
Yeah, that's the path. Mike Naham would have taken that path as well.
Ned Flanders. That guy there. No,
Ned Flanders.
Nick.
But who's Homer?
Colin used to be before he lost all the weight.
Our first episode, it took you all of 51 seconds to get stuck into politics.
No
See, that's
surprise
not
there.
like that's not like me.
51 seconds. We started an automotive podcast, and it took you 51 seconds to get stuck into politics.
Was it an election year, Nick?
It was an election year. Mark McGowan had just... It was April of 2017, for those that might not be aware. And Mark McGowan had just been voted in, and you had a feeling he wouldn't even make one term.
No, I was wrong.
You were wrong.
I was wrong.
Yeah, yep.
I was wrong.
And we were also talking about Ben White. Isn't it funny, those guys have moved on to massive paying gigs now, those guys, so outside of politics. So they're obviously quite successful in what they did. But
You have no idea what we're talking about.
Nope.
Neither do
this
I.
was 2017.
Don't feel
anyway.
alone.
But I do know how you like to comment on politics and throw it in to a conversation that is completely unrelated. So a bit
all
nervous
related,
tonight
it's all
without the
related.
edits. We'll see how many times a certain
No,
someone comes up.
I'm not tonight. It's off the record. Trump's in. That's all that matters.
Fair enough.
Mic drop.
Hey, just give us a brief. What have you guys been up to recently?
I've been working.
Working? Yep. Yours, Michelle?
That's all.
Winning?
That's all. Yeah, look, we had the SummerSlam on the weekend. So had a successful weekend. Car ran really well and consistent. Ended up getting through to the final rounds. Unfortunately, we saw a really big fireball explosion from Chris Rowe's immaculate Mustang, and that ended up calling the night early. Whether it was because there wouldn't have been enough time for the track cleanup, or I've heard that potentially maybe a bit of track damage caused by that. So there was still quite a few brackets that were left to race, but it was called a night, and I'll be running that final pass on the second qualifier of the next meeting on the 27th to determine the winner.
Okay.
So, no surprise, versing Paul Garbolini,
There's a shock.
my arch rival.
No, I shouldn't say that. All the other
You took him
modified
out
drivers.
first round when,
Yeah.
under the elimination
Well,
system.
Well, it was funny actually because I had Paul in one of my rounds, and so with our round robin, or as it's promoted by the Motorplex, Chicago Shootout, you know, it's the best out of three goes into the finals. So I won two, and then for the third round I was versing Paul, and he won by, you did the calculations, was it 300ths?
Yeah, it was 3 100s.
3 100ths, he won. And then I went up to him afterwards and I was like, oh, like I thought I had you, that was so close, you know, because I'm chasing him, so I'm looking at the line and trying to push my foot down even further than it won't go. And then saw his light come up and he said, I reckon you would have been pretty close. Your package might still have been good enough to still verse me in the finals because no one else had won 3. So I said, oh, and so we verse each other again. He goes, yeah. I said, oh, good, because it's my turn to win next.
Yeah, and it's not confusing for the crowd, that, is it? Not at all.
Well, I mean, the Chicago Shootout side might be the confusing part, but I won against Paul Garbolini in the finals on the 2nd of November.
Yep.
And then for the last meeting,
You're leading
no,
the
I've got
points
my,
now,
I've got
yeah?
mine. Yes.
Yeah.
By 30 or something, I think. So the meeting before last, I won against Paul and knocked him out very early for the
First
Golden
round.
States. First round.
Yeah.
That let me get a good leap. And then he won against me in round 3. So now I will win
It's
against
your
him.
I understand, right, okay.
I will win
You guys
against
are
him
so-
now.
Yeah.
I think Paul might have something to say about that.
Yeah, he actually then started to recite the times that I had beat him, and I said, "Oh, you're keeping tabs."
He is.
Okay.
He is, trust
So-
me.
I have a bit of a laugh about it, but yeah.
Fair enough. Trent,
All fun
your
and
husband
games.
over there in the corner hiding. Was there anything
Hi,
in the delay
Trent.
box, Trent? Was there anything in the delay box for the... Okay. He's
I
not
wouldn't
giving,
know.
he doesn't
I
give too
speak
much
about
away,
that,
Trent.
yeah.
It's-
If I
that's
close my
very-
eyes, maybe he'll
That's
tell
very ambiguous, that signal, Trent. So it's great to see
you.
all
His
of our
father's
families.
son.
Our families all here tonight as well. Hey, look, I know we're a little bit nervous tonight. This is one of our first live gigs all together as the podcast as it is now. We prepared some gags earlier, but found that most of the Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez jokes had been used up already. So we're struggling a little bit here. Speaking of Formula One as well, we have a new world champion, Max Verstappen, this week. Also, it's announced he'll be a father as well.
Baby on the way.
To Nelson Piquet's daughter, Kelly Piquet. So that's pretty big news in the Formula One world. McLaren, first time in 26 years, crowned manufacturers champion. So that's great for them as well. Did you guys pick up on this? This sort of slipped through the radar, but Kelly Piquet is 10 years older than
I read
Max.
that in the notes, and I was a bit surprised.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a kind of a big age gap there.
Well, you know, I think it was an even bigger age gap when Lewis Hamilton, he was with the Nicole
Yeah.
Niger, the lead singer of the Pussycat Dolls.
Yep.
They were together for a long time. Lewis Hamilton was he was very young then, but maybe it's a thing
they
for
do.
the F1s.
F1 drivers.
They like the Cougars. No.
What do you think they'll Red Bull or Williams will be fighting over their newborn? We think
Calling dibs for having their...
it'd be interesting to see how that pans out.
Does it work the same as football?
Father son.
Yeah.
No, not really. No, I don't think so.
Doesn't work like that.
Hey,
Well-
Simon, tonight I know you wanted to talk about the U-Class licence.
The
so
U-Class.
Yeah, give us your thoughts on that.
So for those of you that don't know, South Australia's introduced a new class of licence. It's been referred to as the U-Class, but I believe the full name is the Ultra High Performance Class.
Yes, that's correct.
That
And-
sounds a lot cooler.
It sounds what?
That sounds cooler. My
No, it don't-
my drag racing license is called Unlimited.
Unlimited, that's right. That's
Ultra high performance.
Ultra high performance. And anyone that owns a car that makes more than 276 kilowatts per tonne is required to have this licence, or they face a fine of $2,500 for driving that car without the U licence.
It's an interesting thing. I mean,
Now, Michelle, you brought up the unlimited licence. We have to do performance testing, correct?
Yeah, and so this
so
is what I'm thinking. Like,
Yeah, you would expect online course.
yeah. But I'm also wondering, like, how many people that are doing these modifications to their cars that are going to be falling into this category are actually going to be doing this kilowatt to tonne test?
Well, I mean, if the
it's-
police suspect that your car has more than 297 kilowatts per tonne, they can impound the car and test it themselves. So all those V6 Commodores out there, they're in big trouble. big trouble.
Fair enough. Simon, I can
But yes,
confirm
online course.
you will be requiring one for the Camry if you are to move to South
I
Australia.
will require. If
If
I
you
drive
wanna-
through South Australia, I will need a UHL licence.
You will. You
for
will
the
do.
Camry.
Hey, just quickly, what was your highlight in motorsport this year?
I would have to say the NHRA finals.
Yes.
Yeah.
It started off with a crash, plane crash that was. We had
Crazy.
we
It
had
was a plane crash.
three categories that went close to the wire, and most importantly, the NHRA had the foresight to run Pro Stock last because that was going to be decided on that final run, and I think that I take my hat off to whoever made that call,
Yeah.
and to see Greg Anderson win one for the old timers, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the whole season for the NHRA this year
yeah.
was just, like, it kept you on your seat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
But just the life events that resulted in the finals
I know,
at Pomona. It's
Incredible.
Just yeah, I wonder, like, it's almost like you could make a movie out of it.
You could. You could.
And the driver flies home to watch the newborn baby being born. Will he make it back in time?
Yep.
No. Plane crash. He will.
I know.
good
It's
point.
incredible.
It's crazy.
How about yourself, Michelle? Favourite moment in motorsport this year?
Yeah, I suppose it's more. It has to be more of a personal accomplishment.
Would have to be the gold Christmas tree.
Oh, I
sure.
was just going to say about being back with the fans and interacting with the crowd again, really. No. Yeah, look, the gold Christmas tree at the Golden States, that's definitely going to be a highlight. And
So, who's got more now?
yeah, I know.
Trent.
Trent, make sure you're listening.
Who's got more gold Christmas trees?
I got in trouble. I said on the last podcast recording that Trent had one. Terrible wife I am. Trent
Has
won two
two.
back-to-back Western Nationals in 2019 and then 2020. So, so I've still got more, if that's your question, because I've got the two national events and then the big championship one. But here's our top comp.
Hey, if it
gold
makes you
Christmas
feel
tree,
any better,
so-
I've got 0.
But I think the fact that I forgot about one is the worst part of it all. But it's not at our house. It's
fairness to you.
It's
That's
at Transparent, so
fair
it's
enough.
not there to remind me daily how great of a driver he is. So yeah.
Oh, fair enough. You know, we talked about moments in motorsport. Mine, personally, my favourite was the redemption, we'll call it the redemption, of Brodie Zappia. Not that he needed redeeming, but, started the season, missed the first 2 races, wasn't going to race for Erebus, comes back, gets Chico Rolls, that is, on board, and wins the Bathurst 1000. How awesome is that? With Chico on the door, Todd Hazelwood, they team up to win the Bathurst 1000.
How awesome is it to see Chico back
in sport? I know. It is awesome.
It's funny because,
Thank
you know,
you.
when we first spoke about Chico coming on with the V8s and, like, trying to understand why they chose to use that market for their advertising. And then I found myself making wraps at the drags for the last 2 events and buying Mission wraps. And I was like, oh, maybe this is working.
Yeah.
Mission
Subliminal.
wraps sponsored the NHRA
How cool would it
series in
see-
the last year. So it's subliminally has programmed into my mind that while I'm at the drags, I want to be eating wraps.
Yeah.
So,
How cool would it be if they started to support Andrew Drag Racing?
Yeah. I know, that would be cool.
I mean, because their stuff is available here, and I do the same. I do it deliberately. It's not subliminal, but yeah, I definitely look when I'm looking for wraps, I buy the Mission Food ones.
yeah. I think just like breaking outside that direct market of who you think you are targeting, which for Mission Wraps, I don't know whether they would just go for like families, and the whole lunchbox meals and things like that. But like, what other avenues they can...
Nick doesn't
Dip
eat
into.
wraps.
You don't eat wraps?
Not particularly. Every now and then.
Does he
No
look
judgment
like
there.
he eats
Pancake.
healthy?
You can eat the Chico rolls.
Well, I was just going to say, just for the record, a Chico roll has 3 times the amount of calories as a Red Bull and a Monster drink. So take that, Cam Waters, Brock Feeney and Will Brown.
Bound to add a bit of weight to the cars.
Anyway, look, without further ado, I think they didn't come here to hear us waffle on. So, Brodie, don't know if you're ready.
Have you finished your palmy?
Yeah, how's your palmy,
How's
mate?
the palmy going, all right? If you're ready, head on up. Everyone, give him a big round of applause. Brodie Zappia. Welcome, Brodie.
Be asking the questions here, mate, not you.
Sorry, yeah, well, you could, the notes aren't, no, you can't. Well, he knows the answers. Well, Brodie, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you here.
No, thanks for having me.
I might just turn you up a little bit, actually.
And just turn Simon down a bit. No. Oh, mine's gone up.
Everyone turns me down, Michelle. That's all right.
Try that, Brodie.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's better. All right. The balloons have presented a challenge. Thank you, Christine.
That is fine. They're just friendly.
Christine having a bit of a giggle there. Brodie, welcome aboard. For those that don't know you, you are Brodie Zappia, son of Richard and Lia,
Yep.
nephew of John Zappia, the famous, everyone in motorsport, in drag racing, has heard of the Zappia name. Even my dad that's come here tonight that doesn't know anything about drag racing knows John Zappia as well. So he's not listening, I can tell, he's not even listening to anything I'm saying right now. Thanks, Dad.
Well, if you have a look over to the right, you might actually spot him over in the corner, hiding
That's
under
John
the...
Zappia over there. For those, no one wouldn't
He's
know
trying to
anyway.
fly
Give
under
him
the
a big
radar.
round of applause. Well, look, thanks for coming on here. I know this isn't your first rodeo. You've done a podcast before with the Wade Oranger. I love Wade Oranger. I'm a big fan of Wade. So I must admit I watched that and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to read out some accolades first. So for those that don't know what this young man has already achieved at 19 years of age, correct?
Yep.
19 years of age, let's read out these accolades. 2018-19, fifth in the Australian Junior Dragster Championship. 2019 and 20, Junior Dragster WA Track Champion. 2019, 2021, that's a funny year of COVID where it went over 3 years. Third in the Australian Junior Dragster Championship. 2021, Junior Dragster WA Track Champion. 21-22, Junior Dragster WA Track Champion. 21-22, Australian National Junior Dragster Champion. 21-22, Wadra top point scorer and perpetual trophy winner. I'm a big fan of the work that Wadra does. 22-23, WA Rookie Driver of the Year. 2023, Western Nationals top qualifier in Super Sedan. 2023, Western Nationals winner. That was your fourth event in Super Sedan. And 2023, fifth in the Australian Championships for Supercharged Outlaws. What an amazing achievement that you've achieved so far. Let's hear it for this man, because that is absolutely magnificent. Brodie, I'm going to quote you. These are your words, not mine. In 2022, which is only 2 years ago, you wrote, this is what you said. I'm not too sure what my next category will be just yet. All I know is for sure, it won't be top Doorslammer for a little while yet.
Little while.
Here, 2 years later, you've gone up in the 80s in the Doorslammer.
Yeah, well, we weren't really expecting to step up this quickly. There was a couple more categories in the pipeline that we wanted to kind of explore, and I wanted to get a couple more years under my belt running in sportsman categories and maybe even dabbling Group 2 for a bit, but the opportunity arose and you'd be an idiot to say no.
I wholeheartedly agree. But it's an interesting journey, isn't it? That in the last 2 years, where you've gotten to.
Yeah, just the way that everything kind of unfolded. It was just there was a new chapter every page that we turned. Like we were planning on running juniors for a bit longer because we went to Alice Springs so I could keep my license after I turned 17. Then that all went out the window when we found the Camaro, which I run in Super Sedan. So then we rushed into, I started in Uncle John's Ute to get my license there while we were still waiting for the Camaro to get finished off. Then once that got finished, came out and I was running pretty well top of the pack, running 850s. Won 2 meetings that season in Super Sedan and finished second by 15 points, arguably due to a rain out, but unfortunately that's how it is sometimes.
And so in 2022, when you made that comment, what was your definition of a little bit back then? Is this, it's happening sooner than expected, like you've said, but at that time, when did you think that that the opportunity would arise?
Well, I couldn't really put a number on when or if the opportunity would arise. There was plans for that car to come out with Craig Pedley from Striker to drive it in a couple of years. But again, we didn't know when that was going to happen, if that was going to happen. That's just what was spoken about at the time. I'd kind of just planned to build the Camaro up, and we were just going to go into top sportsman after Super Sedan, just run, high sevens and keep that naturally aspirated. But that went out the window when I had a sponsor approach me, and we decided to put a Pro Charger on it. And then just from there, it just spiraled. Once I was running sixes. I've already run over 200 mile an hour. I was already doing 1.0s to the 60 foot. So at that point, when we found out that Craig wasn't really interested in driving and he wanted me to jump in the Doorslammer, I'd already had the experience and the build up coming up to it. So it wasn't such a big jump to go into the Doorslammer. So I guess we never really planned for it to happen all this quickly. It just all happened so fast, and it just worked out to be at the right time.
Happening now. So I suppose we better start from the beginning. Now, you've said before that you had the opportunity to go-karting when you were younger. What was the big decider to then really make your ground with drag racing and the junior dragster?
Well, when we went go-karting, it was just like with a few friends and with my parents, and I used to go when I was still 7, and my parents would just say that I was 8, and I would pass as an 8-year-old, and it worked for quite a while. But when the opportunity arose to run juniors, it was, well, you got to make your mind up. Do you want to go down this path of racing go-karts? Do you want to do something else, or would you like to race juniors? And my answer was, I want to be like Uncle John.
Yeah.
Nick was telling me that you got a bit of a passion for gaming, and you used to race the McClure's and Versmas in Forza.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I used to do a bit of 8th mile drag racing on the airstrip in Forza Horizon 2 and 3 with those guys.
Did Casey kick your butt in that as well?
Casey wasn't racing, but no, she probably would have if she was. Did a bit of drifting with Luke Wiesmer as well. Now he's gone on to be an Australian champion and state champion in drifting as well. The likes of Cade Brennan as well. He's now tuning his dad's car. Lots of the junior races at the time. We all just used to catch up and play on weeknights, and it was just the way that we got on. Yep. It was good fun.
That's it. Is it a game, like a console?
Forza.
Is it like
Xbox? It's in the
on your Xbox.
I don't know what it is either.
I used to have a little racing sim set up in the front room, and I'd just sit there with my headphones on, and you got a full steering wheel and pedals and shifter and everything. So that's where I learnt to drive manual before I'd even got a license. So it was good fun.
Maybe that's where you then start to practice with your reaction times and everything if you're doing that. Darren Griffin that I race against in Modified, he said that he was cutting terrible lights, and then he started playing the NHRA drag racing PlayStation game, and now he's like killer. He's so good, and I'm like, I gotta buy myself a PlayStation.
I was going to say, don't tell everyone that.
Yeah, but
give everyone the upper
if
hand
people
now.
were then spending thousands on Pro Trees, maybe just a PlayStation game.
No, the only way to get better.
Don't listen to this, Paul. No.
The only way to get better is just keep on practicing, keep doing laps, keep going out there, and keep trying.
Yeah, 100%. And but if you don't have the opportunity to get behind a car, and if it's in the off season, it sounded like you had a pretty good setup with your.
Or at the traffic lights.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do not endorse that. Just
only
Rita, we don't endorse.
No, Rita will be listening. Brodie, talk us through then. Let's go back to, so you said you were 8 years old, or 7, 8, whatever. 2013, your debut in the junior dragster. Talk us through that scenario, how you came to get that junior dragster as well, and how that all came to be.
So we first started looking at, whether we were going to buy, or whether my parents were going to buy or lease, or what we were going to do to get into the sport, because they weren't sure whether I was going to like it, whether I was going to hate it. So we were very fortunate that we were able to lease a car off a good friend of ours at the time, Pete Matulovic. His son had just stepped out, and he had another car that he was leasing to Georgia McSweeney at the time. So I was able to jump in there, did a few meetings before my parents decided that we were ready to buy the car, and I was enjoying myself. It took me a long time to get my license though, purely because I was going way too fast for the class. I was at least, I think I was 10.93 and the index was 11.90 to get your license, so way too fast for an 8-year-old. But it was definitely a good learning experience for me, at least. Like, I started to get the hang of cutting lights pretty well straight away. I actually came runner-up at the Fast Series only a month after gaining my license, and then went on to win a meeting 2 months after that. So it was quite good to get some early success and some early wins, and it really boosted my confidence right at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So your formative years of junior drags are huge. From 2018 to 2022, you're travelling, preparing, crewing for Uncle John, and on top of all that, you're winning. I want to know how you managed being a young teenager amongst all of that.
Well, it was definitely hard work to keep up with the maintenance on the car and everything, because people just look at them like, oh, they're just junior dragsters, but unless you put the time and effort in the shed and at home and doing like any car, doing your maintenance, they get overlooked quite a lot because of how simple they are. But if you really do put the time and effort into keeping them up to scratch, then they pay you back in how they perform. Travelling around the country was great fun. My teachers at school absolutely hated it because I was never there, but I still somehow managed to get good grades at school, and that was one of the things my parents told me, is if your grades drop off, you're not racing. So that was kind of my, their leverage on me, was I had to stay good at school to be able to do what I was doing. I wasn't really too heavily involved with Uncle John's car at the time. He's always had his guys and his crew on the car. I was more so focused on my racing and getting myself up to scratch and learning what to do. But in the latter part of my junior racing days, I pretty well took over in doing all of the maintenance and all the work from my parents. There was pretty much the only thing they were doing at that point was starting me and doing my idle RPM as I came into stage. I wanted to do the rest of it, and it took a lot of pressure off them because I had no one to blame if I messed up my dialing. But it paid off in the end. It was a really good last few years, going back to back in the WA Championship for the last 3 years and winning the Australian Championship on my last one. So I was very fortunate, and I'm very grateful to my parents for taking me around the country and for the amount of time that they've taken to travel around and time off work and everything in between.
And so, being that you had so much success with your junior dragster, and particularly in those last few years, it sounds like you had a really good group of driving competitors at that time. But did you ever feel that it was hard to be missing out on your social life and your network of friends that you had outside of racing? I know that, from experience myself, and even now, and now I'm passing it on to my girls, our summers get busy with racing, and add maintenance onto that and everything else you're involved in, you would have been turning down quite a bit and missing out. It could be a bit hard as a teenager, I imagine.
Yeah, it was hard sometimes, but I didn't really struggle too much because I didn't really have too many friends outside of racing. Like, all the juniors and all the people at the track that I knew were pretty much my friends. Like, aside from 2 or 3 that I saw at school every day, I didn't really have anyone else outside of the track that I went and spent time with, and that's pretty well the same now. Yeah. Well,
I suppose from doing juniors from 8 right on through till 17, I made some friends, and I did it for 2 years, but
you married one of them.
That's really cool. Well, I mean, he wasn't cool enough to be in a junior dragster, but yeah, I spotted him from afar, lurking in the corner just like he is now. No, he's not impressed.
So there's a rumour that
Not cracking a smile, is he?
you
What now?
You started your car racing career, like sedan type racing career, in your dad's VF on the Wednesday nights when you were 16. Did your dad know?
Yeah, he knows. He was there. There was one condition that I couldn't do too big of a burnout on his tyres, but we were having some problems with all the modern technology in these VF Commodores it would try and kick in your ABS, and it was like, no, you're not doing a burnout, you're not doing a burnout. So the time that it finally did, I made sure I did a burnout. And that was, funnily enough, the last time I've been down the track in that car was that pass, but I made it worth it. That car, when we first raced it, went 13:02 was its fastest stock. And then, you know, we put a little cam in it, OTR exhaust, got it tuned, and I've run an 11:94 once.
Wow.
Then it'll go 12:01, 12:02, 12:04. It's never been back there every time I've tried. But that one pass where all the stars aligned, it went 11:94.
Well, so you've gone 11s in that, but then you jump, because Simon made sure I had to ask this question. He goes, ask him about the VP, your uncle's VP ute. So talk us, because you've gone from an 11...
Arguably the best super sedan car you could ever jump into.
You've gone from a high 11s car, now you've gone 970s in this thing. So talk us through that jump as well.
Well, the jump into the ute was... My first time in the ute was when we had a few rear end problems that we didn't know about at the time. So Uncle John's jumped in and done a few laps, and it's wiggling all over the track and stepping out at half track, and he's like, you're not driving it unless it goes straight. And it did one straight pass of the night, and he goes, all right, you can get in it. And I was like, thank God for that. I go out, as soon as I leave the start line, it just pulls straight towards the wall, and we had speedway going on at the time, so there was dust all over the track. So I have one wheel outside the groove, one wheel inside. So I've given it a pedal, shifted gears, brought it back into the groove, and then it's kicked out again, pulled it back into the groove, and it's gone 10.999. So I'd run my first 10-second pass with 2 pedals, and that was the end of that Wednesday night. It was like, all right, take it back, find out what's wrong.
Yeah.
We found out we had a twisted axle and a few other bits and pieces that were wrong with the sway bar and some old tyres that probably weren't helping. So we did a few fix-ups during the week, went out for the next Wednesday and ran 988 to gain my licence in Super Sedan.
That's awesome.
And so the Camaro, it was from Adelaide, which was your debut in Super Sedan in December of 2022, is that right?
So I raced the ute in Super Sedan for the first 3 meetings. I believe the grand opening, the Golden States, and then like a Super Sportsman Showdown type thing in late November. Then it was starting to push quite a bit of oil out, and we still haven't fixed it to this day because we've been flat out since then. And it was after that meeting that I decided, well, I've just got to, you know, get my stuff together and get the Camaro sorted. And because the Camaro had been sitting there since September, and we were coming into December. If I didn't get the car ready for that meeting, Uncle John was going to be away for Willowbank and Sydney for the 2 January meetings, and then the next time we'd be racing would be the Western Nationals, which you can't license at, so I wouldn't be able to have run the Camaro until late March if I didn't get it ready for December. So that was kind of my motivation, was get it ready for December so I can get out there and license before he goes away, and then it proved to be worth it, going and winning in January, which was nice.
And you ran an 8:57 at 257 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, in third round, went 8:57.3 on an 8:57 in third round to, well, that was my first lot of prize money I think I got, $125 or something like that, so that was pretty cool. That was the December meeting, that was, yeah.
So in the space of months, you've gone from 8th mile with the JD to 12-second pass in the VF and 9 seconds in the VP, 8 seconds in the Camaro.
Yep.
In a span of just a
6
few
months.
I had to do my research on that. I said, is this right? Because you were still running the Junior Dragster. You had gone in the VF, you'd gone in the VP, and then you had the Camaro, and I was like, that's all in 1 year.
That was all within 6 months, yeah. And I even come back out in the junior at the Golden States just for one last pass against the guy who bought my car. So good friends of ours that bought my first junior dragster that we bought off Pete Matulovic, they were still racing that at the Golden States in 2022. So they came back over with the Lamatinas, and I did my last pass against them where we took all the weight out, changed gear ratios just to try and see what it would run. And I went 763 at 136 kilometres an hour in the junior. And was very quickly told to not bring it back out again. So we put that car away, and I come back out in the ute just to go 6-1 to half track. So it was it was a good final hurrah for the junior, I think, to race against the person who's now racing it around the country.
They give you just a warning now if you go under. I mean, that's significantly under, but
Yeah,
I'm not
you,
sure
you
if
get
it
a
was in
10th
the-
buffer. You get a warning if you
Yeah,
run
yeah.
780, but I'd just blown
Were
that out.
you
with
ever
the water.
racing when it would just be immediately trailer home?
No, so when
Yeah.
I started, there was already the 3 brackets.
There was the buffer?
And you had the buffer,
Yeah. We when I was racing in juniors, if you broke that, if you broke your time, it was just if you broke that time restriction. I'm trying to think back because I think
it was 860 or 850 at the time.
yeah, that sounds right. But there was only like the 2 classes when I was racing on.
Yeah.
It was a bit different age increments as well. But you would come out and do it in your first qualifier, and you would get put on the trailer and go home, and it was just so hard to see for some kids. Like I say kids, you know,
'Cause it
I was
wasn't
a
even
late
their fault at
teenager.
the time
Yeah,
either, like,
and
they
how do
don't
you?
know.
And especially when it's the weight ratio comes into it
And
all,
it's the
you
parents'
know.
fault anyway.
Yeah, that's it. They're the ones who are liable.
But there's so many things that could just control the outcome there. But yeah, it was always hard just to see someone go home three meetings in a row.
That's
trying
what
to
all
top
my
qualify.
that's what all my licensing was, trying to slow the car down.
Yeah.
And that's been really the joke with juniors is they're not hard to go fast in, they're hard to slow down. And that
Yeah.
was what our biggest struggle was in my first few years racing in C and then going up to B. We had throttle stops, throttle restrictors, like weight in the car. Like you couldn't pick the cars up anymore, they were that heavy. And they were still trying to go too fast. So it's just crazy to see how far they've developed and how far they've come. And now we've got things like 760 brackets over in IHRA, and you can run 750 and 690 over in America as well.
Yeah,
Like the
right.
technology's just improved dramatically over the last 15 years.
I
or
wasn't
so.
aware of that. So that's IHRA in Australia, though.
Yeah.
They have that.
Yeah, so you
And
can run 760 now once you're 15, I believe.
Yeah, I wonder if some competitors go between the two, depending on which track they're at and which lead bar goes in for what competition and things like that.
Yeah,
would be
pretty
interesting.
similar to like changing in a comp class, you know, like B dragster or D
Yeah.
dragster or something like that. You do a little change and you can just go and hit different classes.
So
All for the
fans of the
juniors.
sorry, Michelle.
No, I was ending comment. All fine.
Fans of the podcast have heard me talk about the Frankenstein engine that went into the Camaro to
Here we go.
step it up from from top sport, well, from Super Sedan to Supercharged Outlaws. But tonight we want to hear it from the horse's mouth. So tell us about the engine. Tell us about the crazy 481X sleeves and the mid plate and.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a, you know, you don't have the money to do it properly, so you just make it all work. When we first looked at putting the Pro Charger on the car, we thought that we had a 4.5-inch bore by a 4.5-inch stroke motor, so we're like, oh, that'll be perfect, like big stroke for the Pro Charger. Pull the heads off, and we've got a massive bore in there. So that was the first like spanner in the works. It was, okay, well, how are we going to come back from this? So then we're looking at putting sleeves in it, but we didn't have big block sleeves, obviously, because we've never played with big blocks. Well, the last time John played with big blocks was when Ravenswood was still
A
going.
long time ago.
So we were trying to see what hemi sleeves would fit, and they were all too small. And then we found these 481X sleeves that were sitting upstairs, and the outside diameter was almost the same as my bore size at the time. So the idea came that we'd bore the motor out, put those sleeves in it, but if we were to bore it out and drop them down to deck height, then we'd lose too much meat around the studs, and being an iron block, it was never built for sleeves. So then John's great idea of, we'll set the sleeves with the lip on top of the deck, and we'll make a deck plate and just adjust the pin height on the piston to suit, and then you'll have a mid deck, so it won't be a 9.8 big block, it was now a 10-inch and 50 big block. And
I personally thought it was brilliant, to be honest. But
it was great, and it worked great. It ran, 694, I think was the best that thing ran.
Now let's just go through that, because not only did you manage to cobble together this Frankenstein thing, but if I recall correctly, we were working on that at about 2 o'clock in the morning, the morning that you had to leave to go to Adelaide to debut it.
Yeah. It was 4:30 in the morning, because I remember calling my mate that was in Adelaide at the time as I was driving the trailer back to the workshop, and he's on his way to work, and he's saying, "What are you doing up this early?" I was, just driving back from finishing the car and going to go have a 2-hour sleep before we load the trailer to leave that afternoon.
So talk us through that, because I think it's one of the most incredible stories that I've ever heard, and I'd like everyone else to be able to share this with you, because it's just amazing, because they're not only getting to Adelaide, but then you get to Adelaide and
everything
take
happens.
it from there.
So, yeah, before we even got to leave for Adelaide, we were finishing the car off, and Adelaide was on the 21st of October, I believe, and it was the 6th of October we first started the car and got it running. So from then it was, well, we need to take it to the dyno, we need to try and see what horsepower it makes, get a tune-up in it, because it was a pro-charged car, blow-through carby, something that we'd never played with before, and we didn't even know what type of horsepower it was going to make. Take it to the dyno, and we had a few problems with the transmission, just whether it was a shifted cable or whatever the problem was. It was finding neutral in second gear and just was...
I think it was just blowing through the dyno personally, but that's another story.
And it was just causing all types of problems. So we took the car off the dyno, brought it up to Gonzo, and between, I think it was myself, Lachlan, Gonzo and Greg were going through the car for...
And your mum.
And mum, yeah, mum was there, moral support. We were there until, I think that one was at 2:30.
I think she was turning spanners. I don't know about
Oh,
moral
probably
support.
was, yeah. That was at 2:30 in the morning, finish up that one and got it back to the workshop. Then, we went through a few other bits and pieces waiting for the next time we could take the car to the dyno, which happened to be the Saturday before the test and tune when I was meant to be licensing. We take the heads off the car back at the workshop and find out that it's pulled the inserts out of the head because we've had to increase the spring pressure to handle the boost because it went from NA to boosted. So Uncle John's put big certs in it on his mill back at the workshop, put it all back together, reassembled it, taken it to the dyno. This was the third time there, and it was the day before we were meant to be leaving for Adelaide, and we had some more unknown transmission issues just
Blowing through the dyno, mate. Blowing through
whatever it wasn't happy, and then you'd open the transmission and there was just seals blown and it was a mess. So we finally got all of that stuff sorted, but that was, the night before we were meant to leave.
And then you left to go to Adelaide?
Yeah, left to go to Adelaide. Lockie and I, just two teenagers driving across the country with a trailer that was probably very overweight for the car we were towing it with.
Sure, this is completely legal too.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Isn't that part of that's the beauty of Group 3 racing, isn't it? Really, and Supercharged Outlaws is that the fact that you do get to build I met Lockie before, build a car with your friend, tow over. I think it's the ultimate story, to be honest with you.
Oh, it was definitely a great trip. Well, I know there was lots of sleep lost because we didn't sleep the night before we left, and then we left at 4 o'clock the Tuesday afternoon before the race meeting, and we were following Uncle John through, out through WA, and I think we got to was it Balladonia? No. Oh, it was even further than that. Yeah, we got to almost the border before I had to call it quits, and it was like, nah, we're stopping now. This is too much. We were so tired, but we had nowhere to sleep. We couldn't be bothered getting our swags out, so we just laid the seats back and slept for a few hours. Woke up when the sun was beaming through the window and we were boiling hot, and it was we might as well keep going.
But the gods of speed weren't done with you yet, were they?
No.
Talk us through the first pass.
So once we finally got to the track after a good few days of driving, we get the car out, we go and set it up on the start line, make sure our ride height's all right, make sure I can see the tree all good. We were planning to come out in the Friday morning to start licensing. I was first pass of the day on the track for the meeting. They'd had the street challenge or the drag challenge just before that, but I was the first one out for the Spring Nationals. Go to do the burnout, goes great, reverse the car back, everything's all good. Everyone's on the start line feeling nervous and excited, I guess you could say, and let go of the trans brake for the car to just move an inch and not go anywhere, straight up to the rev limiter. And I was like, oh, well, that's not good. We've broken something. So first thing everyone was saying was, oh, it's probably your input shaft, probably your output shaft. And I'm like, I don't know. I could hear a bit of a ting to ting 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 under the car, so I reckon it's a steel tail shaft.
Aluminium tail shaft.
Aluminium tail shaft, yeah. Roll it back to the pits and I stick my head under, and sure enough, the yoke has snapped off the tail shaft right at the weld, and we were left with absolutely no drive.
I think it was around 2 a.m. Before he left that I was going, is that tail shaft aluminium?
Was that
You
before?
sure?
Was
You
that
sure that's strong enough?
Was that before or after I stripped the thread on the port line on the side of the trans? I think that was. that might
I
have
can't
been.
remember.
That might have been after. Probably about the same time that trans cross member got welded in.
Yeah, well, anyway, that's another story.
So
you managed to find someone to build a tail shaft for the car.
yeah, so we were in Tailem Bend about an
You want to
hour
give him a shout out? Or you?
yeah. Big thanks to what was it called again? Hardy Spicer. That was who it was.
There you go, Hardy Spicer.
Oh, Hardy Spicer.
We have a
yeah,
branch here in WA.
They do, yes, Hardy Spicer.
Yeah, so once we made a few calls around, found someone who could make a tail shaft in the very short period of time that we had. I think it was about 3:30 in the afternoon, and we've called up on a Friday like, hey, we need a tail shaft like right now. Can you make one? So Mum and Dad take the trip down in the hire car to Adelaide from Tailem Bend, a good 1 hour 45 minutes. Go and pick this thing up. 1 hour 45 minutes back. We get the tail shaft in the car, and then we're pleading with the stewards, like, can I please get a chance tonight to do a licensing pass? Because once we go into racing, I wasn't going to be able to license anymore. Thankfully, they gave me the opportunity, and they said, all you've got to do is go to half track, and we'll see from there. So, again, burnout goes good, back it up. I leave the start line with an 0.23 reaction time and take it to just past 4 seconds in the run because the car started to wander out towards the wall. And the car went 470 something to half track at only 140 mile an hour. Rolled through for an 8.1, which was my PB by 4/10 with the chutes out. So at that stage we were like, oh wow, this thing's gonna go pretty good.
Go.
And that was all that we had for Friday night. We were just grateful that the car even left the start line, made it down the track, and it was dead straight as well for a car that had a complete new setup in it. Next morning,
Yeah, because it wasn't just the engine or the trans upgrades. There was a whole rear end put in that car.
Yeah, it went from having a fabbed housing to a fully modular 9-inch Mark Williams floater. Everything from the back seat back was brand new, different, wheel and tyre setup, suspension setup as well. Like pretty much everything in the car had been gone over 3 times. Like we started at the motor, then you make your way back to the converter, transmission, diff, and then you go back to the front. Right now, what do we change? You just keep making your way back, and you just find all the weak links until you finally ironed them all out. And we still hadn't ironed them all out by the end of the season. But
So at the end of that meeting, your first meeting, how quick and how fast did you go?
So on my first full track pass, which was the Saturday morning, I went 7:22 at 203. Sorry, no, 7:21 at 203 mile an hour, with my windscreen becoming imploded inside the car, smacking me in the face because my windscreen was never made to go that fast. And props to Lockie for suggesting a window brace, which I said, oh, you won't need that.
You won't need that.
And then we needed it. So then we were cutting strips of aluminium off people's trailers, trying to make window strips. And big thanks to Tony Wood as well and Matt Abel for donating some aluminium off his trailer so that I could get back out there, and to Rob Taylor for his perspex. So it was a bit of a team effort from all the Group 1 pits to get my car back up and going over there. Then went 7:22 at 210 mile an hour, and then come into the night when the good weather hits. We were having some issues with my auto shift, and it was shifting straight into second gear at like 0.2 seconds into the run. And we thought for the last one, we'd change a few parameters and see if that fixes it.
Yeah, it didn't fix the relay. There was tech screwed to the...
Yeah, well, apparently mechanical relays vibrate. We should have known that from a few years ago, but that's all right. We've got the car back out, and it went 7:01 at 214 mile an hour.
So
only
close.
narrowly missing out my first 6-second pass, which I was very rudely reminded of when I got back to the pits that I wasn't running a 6-second pass on my first meeting. And if it wasn't for the fact it was leaking oil out of every single orifice, I would have definitely put that car back out there and manually shifted it myself to make sure it ran a 6. But unfortunately, my brain said, no, that's not a good idea. And we just packed it up and took it home.
And so I'm sure, you would just have so many stories, and in the short time that it has been that you've been racing in those adult ranks and with those cars. But talking about the top Doorslammer now, getting into this ride, it didn't come easy for you, did it? I know that you would have had to really prove to John what you were capable of, and talk us through how that came about.
Well, last year we had a lot of issues with the Camaro, with engine troubles and valve train issues, and then kicking rods and just everything that came in between. There was just little mistakes here and there, and I was learning on the fly. All my crew were learning on the fly, and John's also racing, so he doesn't have the time to sit there and make sure that everything's 100%. So we were just kind of seeing how we did. And it took a lot of work. I broke a lot of parts. I spent a lot of money and spent a lot of time at the workshop, just night after night, overnight, before race meetings, not sleeping. But it's what I needed to do to get the car back out there. What I think that showed, though, was that I didn't have any give up. There was times where I'd miss the compulsory qualifier. I'd show up to the track with the motor still not built, grabbing parts from people in the pits, slapping it together, getting it started for the first time.
I know what that's like.
Getting it started for the first time only 10 minutes before our run, and then quickly get dressed, go out there and for the car to, drop an oil pump belt, and then come back and it's running on 7 cylinders for the next run. And it's just like, what more is this thing going to throw at me? But
God's of speed, mate. God's of speed.
that's it. But at the end of the day, I never gave up, and I just kept going out there. And I think that the fact I never gave up and just kept going showed him that, well, I hope it showed him that I have what it takes, and clearly he was taking note on what I was doing last year, and how, everyone knows that driving a Doorslammer is not easy, and the maintenance that comes with it's nowhere near easy as well. But because I'm used to what last year was like, now it feels like this year's been a breeze. Like, we've had the heads, pistons, rods out of this car probably 3 times, and I've done 3 meetings, and it's like, I'm going to bed at a reasonable time, I'm not staying up all night. It's been good. I've had lots of jokes, people talking about Hemi life and how these things are rattle gun motors and they're built for racing, whereas the big block, everything was so, well, my big block, everything was so finicky and everything had to be right, otherwise it would bite you in the ass. So, yeah, the way that last season panned out really helps prepare me for what this season was going to bring. And at the end of the day, when it came to licensing, I know I had a brief conversation with Gonzo about it. He said there's no pressure on you from anyone on how you perform, because everyone already knows what you can do. Just go out there and do the best you can. And I had that from a lot of people. But then on the other hand, I'm feeling the pressure by the fact that there's all these people and all these logos on the car, all these sponsors that have put in so much money into getting this back together, all the time that my whole crew had spent, and Uncle John and the family, and the amount of sacrifices that everyone's made to get this car back up and running. To get out there, I felt like I had a point to prove to everyone, really, and to Uncle John more so, that I do have what it takes. And he had the voices in his ears of, oh, are you sure he's ready? Like, how do you know he's going to be all right? And I really do have to thank him for not doubting me that whole time. Like, the one thing that he told me from the start was, you'll be right, just go out there and just drive it, you'll be fine. And I think he had more confidence in me than I had in me, purely because it's an unknown. But he just knew from the start that I'd be okay, and that made me feel a lot more confident in the way that I went out there and did what I did in licensing. Like, we still had issues in licensing. We had a gearbox out of the car, and we had the sump off it, checking bearings, and we had some issues with some cylinders, but it was just turn the car around, get it out there, and try and get my license. So to get it done in the 4 passes that Gonzo said I had.
Got 4 passes, mate.
Yeah, it was 4 passes or I got a slap in the face is what he said to me. So we had one pass that was...
there's no pressure. The next second is, but don't do it in 5.
He was always going to do it. It was never an issue.
It was... I wasn't expecting to, go out there and get my license in as many passes as I had, because I had no idea what it was going to be like. I'd kept telling myself that it wasn't that big of a jump. Just looking at the increments from last year to this year, it was only probably 0.5 at 60 foot, and then you make your way out to 330, and it's about 0.3 at half track you're about 7/10, and then through the finish line it's over a second, well, about a second, but the speed difference was only 35 mile an hour off what I've already done.
Yeah.
So looking at the increments and the way that the car makes it down the track, it made it a lot less daunting for me. But for someone from the outsider, if you don't look at the increments, it's like, well, you're going from 680 to 580s, 570s. That's a whole second at that level. It's like, but...
Yeah, but that's standard for you. You seem to shave a second off every time you get in a car.
Yeah, if anything,
Pretty
I
much,
feel
yeah.
as if your experience has been the most gradual that, like, I've seen.
Well,
I've never
I've
known
done-
anyone to have done so much in such short little time. If you say that you want to take one step into a faster car, like, you've taken 5.
Yeah, well, I ended up doing, 13s and 12s and 11 in the Commodore, and then 10s and 9s in the Ute,
Yeah.
and then 8s, and then 7s, 6s in the Camaro, and now I'm in the 5s in 4 runs in the Doorslammer. So
Yeah. But like you said, you know, just your dedication and that hard work that's going on. And I was going to say behind the scenes, but a lot of it is visible at the track. And, you know, that really speaks for itself. And I know how it feels to have that external pressure. And sometimes when people say that, you know, don't feel it and I'm not putting it on you, it's still...
it doesn't make it
still
go
there.
away. Yeah.
And, you know, for you have it with your name, but then having the sponsors on the side as well. I can imagine how that would, the mental load that would be for you. But I just think you should really be proud of how much you're doing with your car and how heavily involved you are and what challenges you have been fighting through, because it's really awesome to see.
Yeah, it's not one of those things where, you know, we've just been given a car and I jump in and drive. That car was built from what was a bare chassis, and the body wasn't even able to mount on it.
The body was just sitting there, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
the body was just sitting there back from when that was chopped off and used for Street Outlaws. So that was in July that I was told that I was able to drive that car, but I had to put it together. So that car had never had an auto in it, so it still had all the bars in the wrong spots for when it had a clutch, and still needed, you know, all the modernising, all the electronics to be put in, all like auto shift and trans brake and all of that. I needed to fit in the car because I'm a little bit taller and wider than what John is, so, you know, sink the seat down and give me some head clearance and move the steering wheel so it clears my knees because they were sticking up in the way. It wasn't just a 5-minute job. It was 109 or 110 days from when we first started on that car to when I made my first pass, and it went from a chassis with front wheels to a fully functioning Doorslammer in that time. And just to stand there and look at it now and think that that's what I've dedicated, well, what was the last 11 years of my life to, that's what I've wanted to do from the time I stepped in a junior, or even earlier than that, to now be looking at videos of myself going down the track thinking, this is me now, like, it's still mind-blowing.
And the accomplishments that you've made already.
Yeah, to make the A final at the Blown Alcohol All-Stars, the first meeting, that was definitely unexpected, but I've had a habit, like last year I made the final and won my first meeting in Outlaws. So to actually make it there and then have the red light faulty tree issue happen, which was a bit disappointing, but you get that. Then heading into the Golden States to make the A final as well, I felt like it was a bit of luck involved because there was plenty of faster cars there that meeting. Like Uncle John was way faster. He was just having some fuel problems and kept banging the blower, so he never actually got to make it to the finish line. But
but look, you know, we hear it all the time, you know, whether you get lucky in drag racing. And, you know, I'm just going to bring to light 2 of my round wins on the weekend were solos, because I had a solo as top qualifier, second solo, the competitor had broken his car. And, you know, should we say half the game in drag racing? It's actually
about 50-50.
getting the car down the track.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not luck, and definitely at your level, what needs to go into your car to actually make it down the track and have a successful competitive time, it's not luck.
No,
You've earned it.
you make your own luck.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, there's been a lot of work from the entire crew and Uncle John and everyone to get this car back where it is, and we had a kind of a baseline set up from the last time that this specific motor was run, but there's still a lot that we're learning and finding out on, you know, what it likes in terms of fuel and timing and everything in between, and I'm starting to try and learn all of that as I'm going so that I can start to try and think for myself and make decisions for myself, but I'm still very clueless on this whole thing. It's I've never dealt with fuel injection before, and it's just a massive learning experience for me with all this new technology that I've never dealt with. Like I've
New technology.
well, it's new to me.
Mechanical fuel injection.
Well, we're not allowed to run air fire, otherwise I'm sure we would be. But no, it's just something different and something that I've always watched Uncle John playing around with, and I'm actually a little bit upset that I don't get to play around with the clutch, because I reckon that'd be great fun, bringing up the RPM and then dumping
Next
the clutch.
Alec Laughlin here. Next Alex Laughlin.
Now we just need the 5-speed Liberty
Speed,
shifter.
the clutch, yep.
In
Slide,
8
that'll
mile.
fix it.
Is that what we're talking now?
Yeah.
Hey, Brodie, look, talk us through Mum and Dad, Leah and Richard. I know John has been a massive influence in your life, but I've always, when I associate with John, I see your dad, Richard, in the picture as well. So talk us about the influence that your father and mother have had in your journey.
Well, my dad's obviously been helping John for well over 30 years now, on the computer and with his fuel and track setup and everything in between. He's kind of been the brain to bounce ideas off. He's travelled the country with him and won championships with him, and they've kind of been known as the brains trust, you could call them. And Mum's always been there to support, and she's brought me around before I was racing to different tracks, watching Uncle John race and win championships, and getting to experience that with my family, and getting to, you know, drive the car back down the track at Willowbank after he's just won the championship it's something that not many people get to experience. So the fact that my parents thought to, you know, bring me along and let me experience those things at such a young age has really it was a big influence on why I've wanted to do what I do and why I'm here now. Mum as well, her dad, so my grandpa George, he used to race speedboats back at Burswood back in the day, and he's one of the big reasons as well why I've been able to do what I've done, because when he unfortunately passed away in 2011, he left some money behind for me to go racing, however I may race, whether it was speedboats, motocross, whatever it was, and we chose drag racing, and that's the reason why I was able to travel around the country and race juniors as hard as I was. Otherwise, I might still be that kid on the sideline watching and hoping. So my parents and my family have had a massive influence on how I got here. So
No, most certainly, most certainly.
And so you've had a fair understanding of the pressure that this has on your mum and dad, because you've spoken about it before, about the debut in Top Doorslammer, and the pictures of mum and dad on the start line.
yeah, so that was probably the first time they'd held hands since the last year when I debuted the Camaro. But no, I don't even want to begin to imagine what it would be like watching your little boy go down the track at almost 400 kilometres an hour. It must be absolutely nerve-wracking for them, but I feel like now, after I've done 10 passes in the car, I think they've seen that I have control, and I know when the right time to back off is, and how to control the car when it shakes or when it turns right or whatever. So I think, I hope I've instilled some confidence in them, because I was starting to feel a little bit nervous seeing how nervous people were around me at the track. I had lots of people come up to my window before my first run, say, you know, whatever happens, like, we love you and we know you'll be fine, and it was just starting to play all in my head. So now that I've done, I think I've done okay for my first few meetings, and everyone's kind of like, it's gone from we know you'll be okay to go smash it, like, we know you've got this. It's just been a big journey of building my confidence and getting rid of the nerves, and knowing that I do know what to do, and to instill that in my parents as well, because I don't want them to be nervous wrecks every time I go to the start line thinking, oh, is he going to be okay? Is he going to crash? Like, we know that it happens. I was sitting in the tunnel while Andrew Cole flipped on his roof in front of my uncle. I've seen numerous crashes, and it's just part of it. We all know that it can happen. We all hope that it doesn't happen, but unfortunately it's always in the back of your head when you're going into the staging beams, and all you've got to be thinking is, how do I prevent something like that happening? And you've just got to be ready for anything.
And having trust in your safety equipment and how you've prepared the car.
That's it, yeah. And don't ever skimp on your safety, because that's the one thing that will prevent you from, you know, potentially dying if something like that happens. So
You must have a lot of sponsors that you want to thank. So I just want to open the floor up to you so you can, you know, talk us through everyone that you want to thank for getting you to Doorslammer and the people that are supporting you while you're in Doorslammer.
Summit Racing Equipment, they're the new ones.
Don't forget that one.
Sorry, there's two.
That's
things
the most
to forget.
important one.
Yeah, so back in the junior days, I had a lot of support from Scruffy and from Mike Sprylan. They were probably my two biggest supporters at the time. You know, a little bit of money here and there helped get us around the country. To associations like Wadra as well. When we went travelling, they'd give us some tow money to go away and represent WA, so that was always great. Aaron Deary from ADR Engines for all his engine work on the junior, and for actually taking me in to do my work experience before I started my trade. He's one of the big reasons why I'm in the trade I am now as a CNC machinist. Then, yeah, out of that into the ute, we had WA Suspensions come on board, and they were sponsoring me in Super Sedan before I eventually picked up JK Construction, who was the big turning point for me. After they came on board, that's when I bought the Pro Charger, and from then everything just kind of spiraled on. In Outlaws, we had people like Simon, who devoted lots of time and nights and mornings and days and all of this just trying to get this car going.
Let's not forget your boss at High Speed Engineering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dennis. I had the car at work for a bit and called Gonzo to see if he could go over and pull the pan off the car while I was at TAFE. And you know, people like Taylor Tyres and Crow Cams and you know, Kunis Group, Click Creative, Denani Hot Shots as well for their big contribution last year. JP Pallets.
Craig's business, Max Plant?
Yeah, now this year, coming into this year, yeah, we've got Max Plant, who is one of the main reasons why I was able to do what I have now. Who else is there?
Kunis Group.
We do have a list here.
Kunis Group, Click Creative, Taylor Tyres,
Petter Suspension and Brakes, Boragoon.
ADR Engines, Fuchs, Tony's Auto Wreckers, High Speed Engineering, Crow Cams, JK Constructions, JP Pallets, Danini Hot Shots, Petter's Suspension and Brakes, and Max Plant.
It doesn't just take one person, it takes a complete village of people to, you know, to get these cars on track, and not just the sponsors, but the crew, you know, my family.
VP Race?
Oh, no, not yet.
VP Racing Fuels?
Yeah, just, you know, my family, my crew, each of them for all their time and effort away from their families to come and work on my car, and like late nights, and it's a massive effort to, you know, get these cars out there. So I can't
it is a
thank
massive
those people
effort,
enough.
and like even at the Golden States, I noticed I didn't come and talk to you because I know it was frantic on the qualifying. You had a burst panel let go, and that part debris of the engine came into the car through the screen
from my second window.
Yeah, in your second window. So you've got people running back to the workshop getting another window which didn't quite fit. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep. So
and
then we're
you
sitting
had
there.
to make another one.
Yep.
And you still had the car turned around to come out later that evening.
Yep.
You
So
know,
we had-
I've got deflectors in stock if you need one.
No, we just need bolts long enough so that they don't fly out through the window. But at least we lost a little bit of weight. We probably lost 2 grams out the back of the blower when we pulled those threads out. So no, we should be right now.
Brodie, before we finish up, I just want to say Wayne Orger said it really well. You're coming into a time of greatness in Top Doorslammer. It's almost like a new, I don't want to say revolution, but it's evolved Doorslammer with a whole lot of new drivers coming in. whether they've just joined a year ago, 2 years ago, but there's a whole new lot of people coming in. And I know you're in an exciting time of Doorslammer. We are really excited about having you on the podcast. That was a great coup for us. Really appreciate it. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add or say at this point.
No, I'm just massive.
Aaron's saying something. Aaron?
Just another big thank you to Uncle John for everything that he's done and for allowing me this opportunity. There's not a lot of 19-year-olds that get to, run 5 seconds at 400 kilometres an hour. So without him, none of this would be possible. Without the influence that he's put on me from a young age, watching him race around the country and winning championships and giving me that motivation and drive to, be the one that comes up after him and tries to continue on what he's already started, and to be able to do it in such a legendary car as well is a great honour. So yeah, without him, none of this would be even remotely a dream. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you. For the historians of the podcast, our first interview, do you remember that, was with John Zappia?
It was.
It was over, I think we used Skype at the time. Skype was the in thing. This is 7 years ago now, so I recall that really well. John was our first ever interview.
Big catch.
Jeez, you started off high.
We did, eh? We did all right.
You set yourself up for
And here we are, episode
starting
200.
at the top.
And we got Brodie Zappia on.
That's pretty cool.
How
like
the
another
world is
200
changing.
It's another full
Later.
circle moment.
It is.
Yeah,
It is a full
100%.
circle. Brodie, congratulations in everything you've achieved so far. You're
Thank you.
a magnificent young man. I tell my boys, my young boys over there, to look up to. I got my son's a very similar age to you. And I look up to this young man because what you've done, your mechanical nous, your knowledge, and your ability to perform is something that I have not seen before. I really haven't. And I know you work for high speed. They're probably trying to get you to go into Targa, I would assume.
Yeah, I did help Dennis out on his Targa car when they had Targa West happening, and we had all-nighters and gearboxes in and out, clutches in and out. So I felt like I was at home really. You just watch them go around the track. They pass you once, and it's like, all right, on to the next place. Set up the tent again. Car comes in, work on it, goes away. Go to the next place. Car comes in. So that was a good, fun experience. Something different for me as well. And yeah, it's just something.
It is. Well, I hope they don't sway you too heavily over to Targa. We really love you. Tarmac, sorry, Todd. Tarmac. It's weird to call it Tarmac these days. But yeah, as I said, congratulations on everything you've achieved. We'll be keeping a close eye on you, no doubt. And thank you for coming on tonight.
No, thanks for having me.
Give it up
guys.
for
I
Brodie
appreciate it.
Zappia.
All right. Todd and Johnny, you want to just jump up here?
Does that mean I get a break?
If you want to, you can. Otherwise, there you go. Thank you, Simon. Thank you as well. Thanks, guys. For those that don't know, and I'm sure they do, Todd and Johnny came along. Todd came along episode 55. So you've been here for like 150 odd episodes, 135, what is that, 145, there you go. Shocking.
I'm glad you remembered. I was thinking in my head, what episode did I come on in? Anyway,
It was episode 55.
there you go.
So, and Johnny, yourself, you've been on and off over the years
Well,
as well?
When this guy goes missing, then I've just stepped in, I think.
Look, we really appreciate your time as well. Johnny, you bring a wealth of knowledge in the scene, in the car club scene, in the street machine scene. I know you do a lot of work detailing cars, and your video content as well is magnificent. Congratulations on all of that. It's going really well, and I know you're doing a lot of work. Your son helping you out now as well,
Yes, it's
surpassing the
bit
baton
of a,
on.
bit of a blessing in disguise, yeah.
No,
He's
it's
on school
cool.
holidays, so it takes the pressure off me, at least physically, that's for sure.
No, it's good.
So
That's
it's great.
good. He's driving you to work, I hear. You're a
Yep,
chauffeur now.
yep.
Yeah.
It's a short trip, but it's still a lot more comfortable with my little Uber.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Todd, yourself, thank you very much as well. I know you brought a wealth of knowledge from tarmac scene and the rally scene as well, and the JDM scene too.
And can I just say, 200 episodes. 200. Round of applause. 200.
200, yeah, no, that's been great.
Well, I used to listen. I mean, the background is I've known Gonzo since I was about that tall. I remember him telling me that he's going to start doing a podcast with yourself, Nick.
Yes.
And I used to listen online and have a laugh, and it's growing and growing, and here we are.
We are.
I mean, we used to have Brodie Zappia on. Like,
I know.
It's pretty awesome.
It is awesome. And the people I've met along the way have been awesome. Here's some of the people we've had along the way. Roscoe McGlashan, Carl Cox, David Reynolds. Remember the night we interviewed David Reynolds? It was really cool. John Zappia, of course. Phil Lamatina was a good one as well. Kelly Betts. They're just some of the few that we've had over the years as well. And our episode 100, if you remember, we did for Shannon's, the Holden Gone But Not Forgotten show as well. So that was kind of cool. I need to thank the following: 88.5 FM, Radio VCA, in particular Jimmy and Pete. They were supposed to come here tonight. Obviously, they couldn't make it down. The Perth Motorplex as well. A big thanks to Ray, Nick, Murray, and all the guys at the Perth Motorplex. They support us to the nth degree. Supercars as well. Big thanks to them and the media team at Supercars. I'd also like to thank Titan Ford, in particular Mark Rossiter and Louis Savadelli and Ryan Finity, always flicking the cars out whenever we need a car. Ryco Oil Filters, in particular Sam Miller and Josh Groves. Benzene Detailing, that's you over there. All Fast Torque Converters from Simon there. Perth Car Club, in particular John over there. Big thanks. We're actually using half their gear here, so thank you to the Perth Car Club. Johnny, yourself, Todd, Michelle, of course, Simon, and in particular our extended families, Angela, Gianni, Valentina, Trent, Luna, Chloe, Nicole, Nicholas, Peter, Linda, Nicholas, Mark. Without your support, we certainly can't do this. Also, a big thanks to the Odin Tavern, in particular Greg Walker, Brodie Zappia over there for making this episode a blast. And of course, our biggest thank is to everyone that's come out here tonight, our listeners, the people that tune in every week. I know Joe's a big listener. Thanks, Joe. Julian's a new listener, I think. Are you a new listener? But you've been listening for a long time. Oh, thank you. Sorry, there you go. Julian's been on board. And look, I know Kim's a big fan. Thank you for everyone for coming down. My friends over there in the corner as well. Even my mum and dad came tonight. So big thanks to them as well.
You paid them, Nick?
Huh?
You paid them. You bought them dinner.
No.
You bought them dinner to come?
No, they came. Look, they're leaving early, but look, they're doing that. And got Michael and Marte there as well. Christine, Ness. Thanks for everyone for coming down. Steve as well.
Joe,
big
got
thanks.
Joe here.
Where is? There
Joe.
he is. There, Joe. Joe, is our official photographer. Joe Mamalidi, Vid Images.
I think he's the new Denise Teo. He's at every function.
No, he's better than Denise Teo. Joe is now flourishing in the motorsport scene.
100%.
So you'll see him down the track as well, every now and then as well. So big thanks to Joe Mamalidi over there. He's our official photographer as well. All right, well, look, on that note, we'll call it here. And thank you, everyone, for coming in. It's greatly appreciated. 200 episodes. We're looking forward to the next 200. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.